Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. I'm really glad to have you here today in preparation for the holidays. Um, when we think of the holidays, it means different things to different people, and there's a lot of things that come along with it. And being equipped before, during, and after are very, very important. So I wanted to just start by talking a little bit about myself. Um, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I work with behavioral health through advanced care, and I utilize something called solution focused brief therapy, which helps people to lean into their desired life outcomes and manage the things that are challenging at the same time. So there's lots of things that are thrown out our way that present challenges, but there's also at the same time good things that are occurring, and we always need to be on the lookout for those things as well, because they're just as important, if not more important. So the work I do helps to shift the mindset to those things and to notice those things a bit more. So with some of those ideas, we could then also apply those concepts to getting ready for the holidays, which bring about lots of different feelings, different thoughts, um, you know, good, not so good, in between, depending on where we are at any given point in our lives. Um, so I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the things to look out for when we're getting ready. Lindsay, we could probably move to the next slide there. Um, so the holiday season is a mix of joy and stress, and we really should try our best to explore ways that we can create a balance and really lean into the things that matter the most, even despite a lot of the challenges that we're faced with on the holidays. Um, Next slide, please. And some of the key goals that we really want to accomplish are really doing our best to shift our focus to what we want, less toward what we don't want. Um, Again, adopting a mindset that really helps us to manage the holiday stress and really like kind of reflect on and think about, really give a moment to think about what the holidays mean to us personally. And this matters because it helps us to strengthen our connections with those that we care about. And we don't live in a vacuum. We live in a social world. So when we can figure those things out and really strengthen those connections, it really helps to uplift us in challenging times in our lives. Uh, I see we have a poll. Um, how do you handle stress? If we wouldn't mind taking a moment just to answer this particular one, and then we'll do a tally afterwards.
Are you able to see the results?
It is, yeah, so it looks like 66% participated. We got 50% said planning activities that bring joy, and 50% said embracing a let it go mindset. Yeah, I mean that's so basically like that is a big part of it of being able to let go and lean into and plan activities that bring joy. Those are very good things to keep in mind in preparing for the holiday season. Um, so is it okay if we move to the next slide, Lindsay? So again, really like focusing on what we want, choosing the mindset that works for us, and reconnecting or recreate, I should say, the desired outcome that we want. So, um, you know, and I say recreate because even though there may have been challenging times, whether it was with family or in previous holiday situations, there have always been those, even as a really young kid, or maybe even not as a young kid, but there have been moments or holidays or times of getting together that we really remembered it feeling really warm and positive and good. And we want to recreate those moments as best as we can, even with and in the most challenging scenarios. Um, so let's move to the next. Oh, I see there's a comment. Uh-huh. It is very important. Thank you for that. It's very important to try to find the good in any situation for sure. So focusing on what you want. So a lot of times everyone does it. We tend to lean into when things don't feel right or that things that make us feel negative or bad or troubled, and it becomes more challenging to focus on what we want or that makes us feel good because all of those things are clouding us. So I want us to really do our best this season to try to visualize the outcome that we want and to try to materialize that as much as we can, doing your best to just kick that little guy off your shoulder that tells you otherwise. Um, and focusing on those attributes that you possess, the things that you bring, the things that make you special, that make you attractive to others that are in your lives, will keep things moving. Even with others that may try to knock stuff down. Um, you know, we could still be the change we want to be, and we could really live that, and we can go forward in just the right way that we want to if we choose to. So it's really important to harness those things that we have that are special to us and to look for signs in other people that let you know that it's being recognized and really trying to lean into that as much as we can. Lindsay, we can move to the next slide. Um, choosing choosing a mindset that works for you. It could be a positive mindset, but really at the end of the day, whatever the mindset is that makes you feel that makes things move in just the right way. Embracing the version of yourself that spreads what you want around other people that you care about too. Reconnecting with memories of past happy moments, like we had discussed earlier. There's always going to be that time that we remembered when everyone was present and things were just moving in the right cadence and the right momentum that really brought hope and positivity to the room. Uh, and even by you doing, I know this is steering family conversations, even if you're not actively telling people to don't talk about that. You wouldn't want to say that, but you don't necessarily have to even say like, let's talk about something else. If you bring the version of yourself to the room and to the family that is just contagious and it's just you and it's genuine, it's going to naturally build optimism, and you're going to recognize it in you and others in your environment. That's going to help you to continue moving in that direction naturally. So, positivity is contagious. It just it just brings about more positivity. Um, so definitely getting into a mindset and just embracing that mindset, regardless of what anybody else tries to do or say or detract from, as best as you can. All right, we could do the next mindset, the next slide, please. Um, and you know, creating, creating and recreating the kind of outcomes that really make a difference and that are most impactful. Um, Staying present, focusing on joy bringing activities and people, and recognizing and building on positive interactions with loved ones. And if creating a festive atmosphere is what it is that you would want to do, like many do on a holiday, um, then really just visualizing, thinking about what it is and the elements that have helped you before, that have attracted others to you and you to others, and just really embracing those qualities that make a difference, the qualities that bring about joy and festivity, um, and basically visualizing it and making it happen. Um, we have a choice. So, like all of these things, even though it might seem challenging, it might seem hard because, you know, your uncle brings over a bunch of negativity, we still have the power and control to make a difference if we choose to, no matter what curveballs might be coming our way. So, um, keep your eye on the prize that you want to have and make it happen because we all have the power to make a change in our own way. So, and what we want to see happen. So, um, I I think this might be the last slide. Is that right, Lindsay? Okay. Um,
That is correct, but we do actually have one more poll that I'm going to launch now.
okay. Okay. Thank you. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I think that's it. So, being present and joyful and feeling calm and balanced. Um, Balance, calmness, being in the moment, and expressing joy and receiving joy. All those elements are definitely a good recipe for a good holiday outcome for sure. Um, Thank you for giving that poll and answering those. Um, I I think we could be at a point of asking questions. I think that we finished the presentation at this point.
That is right. And we do have a question that came through. This person said, holidays are tough, especially since the election. How do I set boundaries at my family or friends' home when politics may come up? I want to participate, but don't want to engage with it and have a feeling it will happen.
Very, very, very good question. Um, so it's it's really difficult. Conflict and challenging topics do come up. But again, really like trying to stay connected to where you want to be and what you want to see will help you to coast through that a bit better. Just trusting in what it is that you want and never losing focus of what it is that you're wanting from that gathering and believing in that. And there's no magic answer to like that's not going to happen, but you could coast through it better if you're focusing on the outcome that you want as opposed to the things that are getting in the way. If that makes sense. Was there anyone that had any other questions?
Another question did come through. It says the person's asking, how do you handle who bring up the past?
Can we say that again?
The question is, how do you handle, I believe this is the way it's being asked. How do you handle who brings up the past, or perhaps it's related to someone bringing up the past?
How do you handle who brings up the past or when the past comes up? Is that the question? Is there a way that we could see? How do you handle who brings up the past? Okay. Um, so there's that's a good question. It all depends on what that what that past means to that person and whatever that past thing means to the receiver and how you choose to negative past. Okay. So it's that's a good question. But at the same time, we have a choice. We could we could stay with it. We could let it ride, right? We could do that. We could take it with a grain of salt while always keeping in mind where we want to be. And it's okay. It's okay to ask in the most honest way to to shift the focus or to bring another topic up in the right opportunity. Um, we don't, in other words, we don't have to. We could choose not to sit there. We could choose not to allow that to kind of take us away from where we want to be. Um, and there's lots of different ways to do that. Again, focusing on the outcome that you want, focusing on what it is that brings you the most joy in that setting, and just doing your best to ride through it. Because realistically, there are going to be people that bring up negative things from the past. But as long as you know and are very sure about where you want to be and what it is you want out of the holiday and out of that moment, then it's like you have a really good shield against those kinds of things. Does anyone else have any questions? Mm. So, sometimes though that's a very thank you for asking that question, Cheryl. That's a very uneasy topic when somebody comes up that we miss and that there was a very, beloved person in our family. A lot of times, even in my work, when somebody is grieving or they talk about how someone leaving their lives has impacted them. I may ask things about what would make them pleased? What would they be pleased about if they got to take part in this to get together? What would they be most proud that people got to see or people got to experience, even if they're not there? Exactly. Right. Like honoring them. Hmm. That's correct. Grieving someone could be difficult, but there's lots of things about that person that still hold true and that still stay with us way after they're no longer with us. So really being able to bring out those things, those memories that make us smile, those things about the person that have impacted us in a very good way, the things that maybe have influenced our lives in the way we live our own lives, can really make a difference. How to handle discussions on finances? That's a good one, Elizabeth. Thanks for asking. Um, so that's finances are another one of those really charged topics of conversation, right? Um, I would say, how do you handle discussions on finances um, in just the right way? Now, when we talk about finances, are we? I guess I wanted a little more clarity on that because does it mean finances in general? Does it mean finances to prepare for the holidays? Does it mean finances in general? Just sort of trying to get more clarity on that. Oh, family requests to help with finances. Okay. So, um, again, I would think one thing that we could ask ourselves is not sometimes we can get caught up in the thing that someone's asking for or the actual tangible thing. Money means different things for different people. So what's behind the requests, right? How does having help with finances make a difference? What outcome does somebody want as a result of having help with finances? How will it improve their lives in their own way? So um, it's really good to know that, to ask those kinds of questions, but also to also be thinking about, how does this matter to this person? And even if finances were or were not able to be provided, how will the outcome of getting those finances matter to that person. Like for instance, if they say these things will make them happier or more at ease or more comfortable, we could talk about other ways that can bring comfort and happiness to those people themselves as well. You know, yes, finances can make a difference and make things easier for people, but people also have certain connections to money and what that means to them. So really understanding what it means to them and figuring out if it means a certain thing, well, maybe I can help them in other ways, maybe not just financially, if that makes sense. Hopefully that was a helpful way to answer that. Okay. So I would ask the anonymous question. So I would ask, what would you what would you prefer to be experiencing instead of burnout? And what does self-care mean to you? And when have you noticed a time, even aside from the holidays, where you were leaning into self-care that made just the right difference? And how might it be helpful as we prepare for the holiday as well? Okay. Well, thanks for explaining that. That is true. That is true that people are pulled in a million directions during the holidays. Um, very true. Much more challenging, much more challenging, but it's also possible to get through it because all of us have gotten through lots of difficult times and lots of moments when we were pulled in different directions. Um, so I would ask what you would want, what would make a difference this year? If you could imagine what would, despite somebody pulling you in a lot of different directions, what would make the difference even with that happening? If you were able to achieve something that made a difference, even while being pulled in a different direction, what would it look like? Even if it was for a moment, what would you like to experience instead of feeling like you're pulled in a million directions? Okay. Try your Do your very best to notice even instances as you're preparing for the holidays where you're a bit more calm, a bit more grounded, and what's allowing that to occur. What are you noticing in those moments that allow you to be a bit more calm, a bit more grounded, and build on those moments as much as you possibly can. Welcome. Thank you. Lindsay, do we have any other questions?
Any other questions listed in Q&A or in the chat?
Can you say that again?
I don't see any other questions in the Q&A or in the chat.
Okay. All right. Um, was this, I just wanted to get feedback from the group. I know this was sort of a shorter presentation. How did this resonate with folks? Do we feel like it was a helpful way to start looking at ways to make the holidays work for us? Did we feel like it was a helpful thing? Thank you for that, Kayla. That's very true. That is a very, very awesome way to look at it. Okay. Thank you for asking, Elizabeth. Hmm. I would say, how do you respond? Somebody said, how do you respond to communications that disrespect your boundaries? I so I wouldn't tell you to respond a certain way. I would say really trusting in what your gut is telling you, what your heart is telling you. Um, um, Responding to communications, and that's true. There are people that can do that and will do that or try to do that. You can choose not to respond. That's also a choice. And that is true. Some people do feel lonely in the midst of being around people. Um, so you can, with anything, you can choose to do the thing that doesn't make you feel the things that you don't want to feel, right? And I know that seems pretty basic, but at the end of the day, no one really does decide our ultimate destiny. We're the ones in control of how we choose to to spend our holiday, what to do, where to be, who to be with. That could come in the form of being with family, being with friends, being on our own. It's really about what it is that makes us feel most comfortable and that respects our moment, that we need. We all need what we need, and we know ourselves better than anyone does. So at the end of the day, we all know what we need, and no one else can tell us any different. Yes, these things are challenging. I'll admit, I'll be the first one to say I have very challenging family members myself. but I will do my best to focus on why I'm there, what I want out of it, and to make it work as best as I can for while I'm there. Um, and I know that's not always the best or easiest way for everyone. And I respect everyone's feelings and the way they experience the holidays and what that stuff brings. And I would just say you really have to try to reflect on and do what it is that's best for you, regardless of what the situation might be. Sometimes that means not being around certain people, unfortunately. And we can choose to do that. Any other questions? One thing I would like to add to is that hope and joy is always present. The things that we want are always, they're always there, they're always with us. We just have to be our own detectives. And I believe someone said earlier, being mindful of catching them, being mindful of catching moments of hope, moments of joy. It's important to protect our peace. That's right. So, so I want to challenge us to really like do our best to be our own self detectives and look for clues toward the things that we want this year as we're preparing for the holidays, and you acknowledging when people try to detract from that, but don't let that supersede or overpower um, what it is that you want and where you'd like to be. Yes, it can. It can be uncomfortable. That's definitely true. We all have strengths that help us to push through uncomfortable moments. Even if we don't always acknowledge that we have those, we all have really good resources, our own unique resources that help us to get through uncomfortable times. Um, even if it doesn't always seem like we do. We just have to dig a little bit deeper and use those things that we have that are good to ride through uncomfortable times. You're welcome. You're quite welcome. I really appreciate everyone's participation and being here and giving me an opportunity to talk about this 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 time of the year, especially where we are. Um, that can bring about all kinds of mixed feelings and thoughts. At the end of the day, we are our own author of the way we want our life to be shaped. So let's do a really good job at trying our best to push through the challenges and obstacles and really lean into the things that matter to us the most. And I'm with you. I'm with you guys. Was there any other questions? I'd be open to answering any other additional questions related to this topic. I know the slides went pretty quickly. Um, Dialogue, I think, about this stuff is probably even more important than the actual content itself. Um, so I'm open to any other questions that anyone might have about the holidays, about self self perspective or mindset, or the outcomes that they would hope to achieve. Um, well, thank you very much, and be the holiday outcome that you want it to be. Allow your desires to shine through no matter what, and do your best to ride the obstacles along the way, and we're going to get through all of it together and do our best to have a good festive holiday season. Thanks, guys.